Well, good morning, everybody. I'm here this morning in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and one of the interesting things that's happened because of the warm temperatures across this area is that we can even see a little bit yesterday. Some of the snowpack, the southern edge of this just continues to erode. And what's good about this is a lot of that moisture is starting to sink into the topsoil here. So we're seeing a lot of snow melt in this area. There will be a shot of colder air coming through here, and most of the new snow we're going to talk about in a few moments, though, will hit parts of Missouri and Iowa and Wisconsin, an area that recently had a lot of the snow melt away. Also, just want to point out, just take a look at that large cyclone just off the east coast here. It's been quite amazing to watch that one. But all of our attention is going to go to the system that's moving through Texas. This is some infrared imagery last night, and then the sun will be rising here across the Midwest and southern part of the United States, and it's going to be this wave that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on. Well, it's not actually just this one. It's actually several waves that are going to follow this, because you look over the next 10 days or so, and we see that the probability of getting at least an inch of rain or an inch of total precipitation is very high across parts of the Mid-South into the Midwest, and then the whole of the Southeast getting over into the Carolinas. If I step it up to the chance of getting 2 inches of rain, you can continue to see these areas that we are expecting to see a lot of very heavy rainfall. And where this has really changed a lot in the last 24 hours has been in the forecast for the Carolinas and parts of Virginia. I'll show you more about that in a second. But I would like to step it up one last time to show you who's got a chance at getting at least 4 inches of total accumulated precipitation in the next 10 days. So we're trying to identify those areas that are just going to be quite wet. On the snow side of it, this is the chance of picking up 3 inches. And the system that's rolling out of Texas today does have the chance of dropping some snow again in that corridor I mentioned a few moments ago. But you also notice that now in the Appalachian Mountains and possibly into the western side of North Carolina and into Virginia, there's the chance for picking up some snow from these next couple systems that are coming through. Chance of 6 inches, just to keep stepping it up here, just kind of give you an idea where that corridor could be. And here's the chance of getting a foot of snow. So best would be, of course, in the Cascades and Northern Rockies getting to British Columbia. But we can't rule out some locally heavier amounts coming through parts of Wisconsin into Ontario and Quebec out of this next system. So let's get in and have a look at today's all hazards weather map. In addition to what this system is going to possibly do in terms of heavy rain, you see the flood watches that are out for parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri, and then the winter storm watch that's on the northern side of this in Iowa and Wisconsin. This is a high wind watch and a high wind advisory. So very, very strong winds. We expect gusts in this area to hit well over 50 to maybe 60 miles an hour here in this part of the eastern Corn Belt with this system. Now, to show you the other thread of this, I'm going to take you down here into the lower Mississippi River Valley, where today in parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas, the Storm Prediction Center has a pretty large area under a slight risk. And just reading through their discussion, it doesn't appear that hail is going to be a major threat today. I was kind of looking at some of the soundings, and that does make sense to me. But I think that the wind shear environment is going to set things up for some strong straight line wind damage, and also the potential for some of these storms to rotate and produce tornadoes. So this is later on today when the low is going through parts of southern Missouri. And again, you can see the front to the south here. That's going to be one of the main triggers for these storms. But if I take you from the surface wind field, let's just step this up to 850. That's about a mile above our heads. We can now see that we will have a pretty decent, it's not a true low-level jet, but a decent bit of flow coming out of the west here on the back side of this. So this will give us a pretty highly sheared environment. Go up to 500 millibars. The main shortwave is moving through Arkansas at this point. So it'll be the kind of the juxtaposition of that and that high wind shear environment, plus where we're expecting the Cape to advect to the north as to where the true limit of the severe weather potential will be. Again, look at the dominance of this southeastern ridge. That's been a mainstay of our discussion here for the last several weeks. So using an algorithm, that my colleague Andrew Pritchard and I kind of developed, mostly his work here, we're looking at basically if the environment is conducive to severe thunderstorms. And what we see is that starting off at 3 o'clock today, going through this evening, this is going to be the area over which the GFS has kind of identified that region of having the best mixture of ingredients to produce some strong to severe storms. So that's kind of the timing of this, 3 o'clock this afternoon through about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. And then in the overnight hours, this will start to fade after midnight once it presses east through parts of Mississippi. So let's go have a look at it. Start this off at 9 o'clock this morning, and we're going to watch that wave move right over Missouri. So we'll have to be on the lookout for some mixed in snow on the backside of it, but this is by 11 o'clock tonight. Low will be over southwestern Missouri, and that's when the front will cross the Mississippi River. Now, as this system continues to curl through Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, this is going to be producing some very strong winds in this vicinity getting into tomorrow. And you can now see the snow on the backside of it coming through Missouri and then clipping through Iowa and Wisconsin. There is the potential for some sleet out of this as well, and that could be contributing to some of the snow amounts that you're seeing here. But there's a kicker wave on the backside, and it turns out that this kicker wave coming through South Dakota is going to play a bigger role later this week down here in the Carolinas. But let me show you where this first one is going. It's going to curl through the Great Lakes and deliver some snow into Ontario and Quebec. But do you now notice, let me just watch this again. See the kicker wave? Instead of getting absorbed on the back side of this, it's actually going to get cut off. It comes way down here. And that's actually going to set things up later this week into the weekend for the Carolinas here. That's going to be an important wave to watch. Just want to show you there will be enough cold air in this that by Friday midday, we could be talking about some snow in parts of southern Missouri and southern Illinois out of this system. So quite dynamic here. Now, just using the latest data from the National Digital Forecast Database, you can see that this goes through Saturday morning, and it doesn't quite capture that second part of that second wave, but it does suggest that there'll be a 2 to 6 inch range of snow in through here. But again, some mixing and some sleet. We'll just have to be on the lookout for that. Now, I want to come back to that second wave. All right, so here's wave one. Watch this. This is the short wave here. That's vorticity. We've talked a lot about that. And it curls out of Missouri into Illinois by 6 a.m. tomorrow. And that rapid intensification is going to lead to these very strong winds. But now the kicker wave on the backside dips farther to the south. See it here? And they separate. And as a result of that separation, there's going to be a cutoff. So you can see the second wave as it dips down through the lower Mississippi River Valley is cut off. At the same time, there's a cutoff low going through California, but this is out here Saturday evening. And each of these has a good chance at delivering precip out ahead of them. And the one over here on the East Coast, I'm going to watch quite carefully. So take a look. Let's do our multi-model analysis because I've been quite impressed with how the models have come back together. We've already seen the first system. There it goes through Thursday into Friday. Now the kicker is here and here. And what we're going to see is out ahead of it, flow coming out of the Gulf. That's just born on the airflow around that subtropical ridge. So this is kind of the preliminary rain. And then by Friday night, getting into Saturday morning right here, Saturday midday and Saturday evening, there's the cutoff coming to California, delivering some light precip. But here's the evolution of that second wave on Saturday night, getting into Sunday morning. Now you notice both models, it's very consistent. I love this. This gives me confidence. But you can see snow in the Appalachian Mountains, maybe into Virginia, maybe into parts of western North Carolina. We have very hard forecast for that. And it's going to go right up the East Coast before exiting basically just through like Delaware and getting on off. So this is not going to keep curling up into New England based on the current forecasts, but this gets us out there to Sunday night. Now, I'm just going to play the rest of this quickly because early next week, the wave that came into California now does the same thing the previous one did. It comes out. Texas, Red River Valley of the South, goes toward the eastern Great Lakes. So that's next week's system rolling through, Monday into Tuesday. So we put all the next 7 days together, in other words, not including that second system. And what we end up getting is this in terms of total accumulated precipitation. So again, pause it, take a close look at that color bar, and you can kind of see what we're talking about in terms of total amounts here. Now, on the temperature side of this, any shot at cold air is going to be just that. It's a shot at colder air. Here's Wednesday's highs today, getting into Thursday. Very warm, again, extremely windy here as well. And as we go from Thursday into Friday, this is the shot at colder air coming in behind that system, but it's going to be fleeting. Moves into the southeast by Saturday, and already the warmer air has returned in this area. If there's a spot that maintains colder air, it's really tucked into the Intermountain West overall through the next 7 to 14 days. So there's Monday's highs next week, getting out to Tuesday. So a lot of mild air. And the longer range models have been very consistent with this. It's our 5-day sliding window going all the way out there through the next 10 days here, and then fully past the middle of February into the 3rd week of February. We could see some cold air at times come back to the Canadian prairie, stays anchored over much of the Intermountain West. But overall, any shot at colder air, again, is just that. It's a shot at colder air coming through much of this section of the United States. All right. Finally, update on South America. Just want to point out that we do see a drier signal from Mato Grosso. Could be beneficial for harvest, but there's still 1 to 2 inches of rain expected in the next 10 days. I am just getting concerned about how much flooding is happening in like Goiás and Minas Gerais and parts of Sao Paulo and Mato Grosso do Sul. There's been a lot of very heavy rainfall here, and they're expecting, an extra 3 to 4 inches compared to normal over the next couple of weeks. Heavy rains are finally expected in Rio Grande do Sul. That's been an area that's been in drought. We do see that after today and tomorrow, another hot, very hot day in Argentina, a couple of days, a front comes through this weekend, better chances for rain. You still see a drier signal, but rain is coming in here, so is some cooler weather. And finally, if you get a chance to read today's report, I do include the latest National Multimodal Ensemble forecast for spring. I'm going to talk about this in my in-depth report on Thursday night. But just kind of cover it in today's written report. So I'll leave you off there. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. I'll be back home. So we'll talk to you then. Thanks.